Hello, welcome back to another Gaming with Killatia, where we'll be taking a look at our last piece of Tetris history, Tetris for the Sega Genesis. And I gotta say, this version of Tetris should have stayed lost. Where do I begin? Well, the controls, honestly, they just don't feel as smooth and responsive as they should be. Heck, I tried playing this game with a few friends and they all agree with me that the controls are not as well responsive they should be for a Tetris game. It's very disappointing. Although, credit where credit due, I am glad that Sega managed to put in a two-player mode in this game. Even though the controls are not all that good, Tetris for the Genesis is still visually pleasing, but at the same time that feels very generic. I mean, let's take a look at the NES version for a second here. And right off the bat, you can see that the game is taking advantage of its Russian roots right at the title screen. And while it may not have any backgrounds in the main game, I honestly do prefer this over a generic background that the Genesis version has. Now, this may be the bias towards the Nintendo version in me talking, but I do find this version to be more visually pleasing than the Sega Genesis version. As far as the music is concerned, it's not bad, but just like the background in this game, it just feels generic. Going back once again to the NES version, the music, considering it came from Russia, fits right in with the game's premise. Heck, even with the annoying humming and the recording of the NES footage, I still prefer this music over the Genesis version. Heck, even the Game Boy version sounds even better than the Genesis version. Now, I'm not trying to diss all over the Sega Genesis audio capabilities because they're all games that has fantastic music on their system. But here, on the Game Boy, with significantly weaker hardware than the Sega Genesis, it's able to produce a much better soundtrack than what we are able to find with the Genesis version of Tetris. One final note, and real quick on the gameplay. It basically Tetris, if you play one version, you pretty much play them all. But in this version, every time you clear 4 lines, you go to the next level instead of going to 10 lines to the next level in traditional Tetris games. I'm not sure why Sega made that change in this version, but yeah, that figure I should point that out. Final thoughts? While it was interesting to play a lost piece of Tetris history, if you're all looking to pick up a Genesis Mini, don't do it just for Tetris. There are way better games on the system than this version of Tetris. And these games are games that define our childhood. Games that define what the Sega Genesis was all about. And games that pretty much helped shape the industry the way that it is today. And also Virtua Fighter 2 for some reason. Yeah, it's not a great fighting game, but I would rather play Virtua Fighter 2 on the Sega Genesis than Tetris on the Sega Genesis. Anyways, to the Killatia signing off. Hope to see you next time.